Right, so everyone should be aware of how to actually open up Visual Studio and get it working. If you found that you've got the Community Edition and you can't log in for any reason because your license expired, don't worry about that. That's just because it's not got an account link with it. Just make a Microsoft account, link it to your Visual Studio, and it'll be free again. Right, so if you get a box that comes up, it comes up, ask you what project to start, just click Continue Without Code. You'll come to this section here. Now what we're going to do, we're going to a new project, so we'll go File, New Project, and we're using C#, so we'll scroll through to C#, and we would like to be using a Windows Form app. Then click Next. So first things first, I'm going to make a sort of garden calculator, so a person can give quotes for gardening work, so we call it our garden calculator. Same thing could work for any number of different systems. I'm just going to use it for a garden calc as an example for now. Make sure you save it somewhere you know where it is, so that you can actually upload it once you've completed your own work. And don't worry too much about the framework, that's all fine. And just hit Create. Right, so you've now got a blank form and everything is pretty much blank. So in the previous tutorials I've covered basically how to set the system up, how to use it. So I'm going to assume you've got some basic knowledge from those. In this one here we're going to start from scratch. So what we're going to do is give our thing a title first. So we're going to give a little label at the top. And if we scroll down to properties here, we'll see the text inside of it. We can also, I think we can change it as well. Not by double clicking it, but by right clicking it. But no, you can't anymore, so you can just hit properties and it'll use text anyway. Right, so find the text. I'm going to change it to my garden calculator. And there you go, that's our text at the top. That's a bit small, so we might want to scroll through until we find the font. And increase that. There we go, expand that. And we'll give it a size 16. That'll be a little bit larger for us. Center that. And we'll leave everything else the same. So you can use the properties windows to change everything from the font color, the font style, all the way through the sizes. For now this should be absolutely fine. Now in our garden calculator we're going to have a number of options, and the first option we're going to calculate is how big someone's garden is. Now we do this by taking our labels, which are here, and placing a couple on the screen. Now what we can do is we can rename these. Go back to our text area here. We can name one the width of the garden, and we can name the other one the length of the garden. Now remember, some gardens might be oddly shaped. We're not going to worry too much about that for now. We're going to assume our garden is square, just to keep it simple. And we can put these side by side like that, width and height. Now we have two labels that state what we want someone to enter, but nowhere for them to enter anything. So what we can do now is we can include our text box. So we'll scroll down so we find text box, and we'll chuck that on there, and we'll chuck another on as well. There we go. Now obviously rearrange it so they now fit. Make it a little bit smaller because they're not going to be that large. So don't worry if you double click on these things, they will just jump into the code. That's not important, just ignore them. And we'll shrink that one a little bit as well. So we've now got two boxes, one length and one width. Now at the moment our text boxes are called text box 1 and text box 2. This is bad practice because we could have a situation where we have 20 text boxes and keeping track of them might get a bit tricky. So what we can do is we go into our properties tab, and if we start scrolling through our properties tab, we should eventually find the name. And we can change this one to be width box, and this one we can change to be length box. And as you can see, when I click on them now, you get width box and length box. Let's just make that lowercase to keep it consistent. There we go. There's length box. So we now have a width box and a length box. Now at the moment, this program will not do anything if I run it. So if I go to run the program, it'll take a few seconds to compile, and it will eventually pop up. We're on my antivirus, eventually pop up, and there we go. As you can see, we can enter stuff inside of here, but nothing happens. So we need to find some way of interacting with the program, and we can use that by doing something called using a button. So we scroll over to here, click on our button, and we'll just chuck that in the corner. Now again, we've got the same problem, it's called button 1. So let's change that, we'll call that calculate, so the text is what is shown on the button. There we go, calculate. And we want to change the name from button 1 as well. So we scroll through the name, this is the thing you refer to it as, and we'll call it the calculate button. Use BTN just to make it short. Now, what we could do here, if we double click on the button, this will bring us the code. Now, ignore label 3 click and label 1 click. These will occur if you've double clicked something you shouldn't have. Could be accidental, could be intentional. If you leave them blank, they won't do any harm. You can remove these, but it's a bit of a hassle, so generally speaking, just leave them. They're not doing any harm there. If you want to put a comment in that says to ignore them, you can do that, but I'll just ignore them for now. The calculate button here is the one you want to be aware of. This is where our program has all of its information, all of its data can be processed. Now we could process it in a number of ways, but to keep it simple for now, we'll do it all in the calculate button here. Right, ignore the fact it's spelled wrong. So, what we're going to do now is make some variables. Now we know our length and width is a round number. It could be a decimal, but let's assume that the gardens we're doing are all in square meters, for instance. So we're not going to worry too much about it being a point number right now. So in that case, we can use integers, and we can have integer for the width and integer for the length. Now, this is very similar to our text entry box at the top, but they are noticeably different. We've not got the bit at the end that says box, so we know that these are internal variables to the program. They're not the text boxes outside. Now, if we wanted to do it so that we got a times the length and the width, so the total area, what we would do is we'd do width asterisk length. Notice how Visual Studio auto-completes things for you. And we can then do a bracket. Now, if you may have noticed, doing this doesn't actually do anything. So we need a new variable. We'll call this one integer total area. This variable is always created when the button starts, so it's never got anything else in it apart from what's in here. Now at the moment, my variables are both 0 and 0, so they're not going to do anything if we do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring some user input from outside. Now remember our text boxes here, A and B, but we're going to actually reference them here. So what we're going to do is we're going to type width box dot text, and we're going to type length box dot text. Now, as you can see, these also won't work because at the moment we're referencing something, but we're not actually doing anything with it. So what we can do is be a little bit more sensible. we are going to actually reference the internal variables. So we're going to go width equals width box.text. Now as you notice, we're trying to transfer this from a string to an integer. So to do this, we have to use something called conversion. So we'll do a convert dot to int32, and we'll put it in brackets. And there we go. Remember, you don't need any brackets after text because it's a property, not a member, or well, a member would be fine, but a function, which would require us to actually use the brackets. But since it's not a function or a method, it's a property, we can use it without the brackets. Now what this does is converts the value of widthbox.text into an integer and puts it in width. Be aware, if you were to put a string or some text into your text box, this would not work. Anything from A to Z would break it. A numbers, apart from decimals, will be absolutely fine. We could make a situation where we block these other entries. That's called validation. But for now, we're going to leave that for another time in a slightly more in-depth lesson. For now, let's just get it working. So we've got our length box.text here. Let's put length up equals convert dot to int32, and we'll just bring it up here, length box.text. Remember, always put your semicolon on the end, and there you go. Now we have a situation where we've got width equals convert to int32 width box.text and length convert to int32 length box.text. So now our width and our length will equal whatever the user's input into this program. Now int total area, width times length, will give us the result of that calculation. There's no way of seeing it, so I'm going to put in there a message box. This just pings to the user and tells them whatever we want to tell them. But annoyingly, it takes a string or text entry. So all we have to do is, despite the fact we had to convert to an integer to calculate it, we've got to convert back to a string now so we can display it. But that's pretty easy to do. It's just the inverse operation of what we've just done. So we put total area in there, and there we go. All sorted. Now if we run this program, let's go back to our form design and run it. It should work. So let's try it. So 5 and 5, total area is 25. That doesn't look very pretty right now, but it works, and that's the important thing. So we now know we can calculate the total length of our garden, which could be quite useful. Imagine we wanted to apply some different things to the garden. Let's say we want to lay some turf. Now we might have several types of turf. We might have a cheaper turf or a more expensive turf. So what we can do is we can add some things to this that allow us to select what turf we would like. So if we go down here, we'll find something called radio buttons. Now normally you want to group these together because a single form will reference radio buttons all on the same place. So if you want to use multiple sets of radio buttons, you want to group them. But for now we're not too concerned about that, we just want to have one set of radio buttons. So I'll take one of these and take another one, and that's our two turfs. Now you see radio button 1 and radio button 2. So I'm going to change this text in radio button to be EcoTurf, and our second radio button is going to be, let's say, Premium Turf. There we go. So we've got Premium Turf and we have EcoTurf. Now a radio button allows you to select one of several options. You could do 10 of these, 1 of these, or 5 of these. It wouldn't make a difference how many you use. Using one is a bit redundant though. So this will allow us to select one of the two options on our thing. So if we were to run the program again, we will see we can select one, not the other. This allows us to select an option. Now, obviously, if we're going to lay some turf for somebody, we've got to make sure we're going to make a profit at the end of it, or get a price. So one of the things we're probably going to start calculating at the moment is our price. Now, I could use an integer, but how often when you go to the shops do you pay for things in percentages like 20p, 30p? Quite often, so it's likely you want to include a float or a double. I use double for now, but you could easily use a float, whichever is more comfortable. I'm going to give it 0.0, make it 0, 0. And there we go. Don't forget to name it, so we'll call it price. And there we go. So we have the double price, and we have equal 0, 0, 0. So that's our price, that's our width, our length, all equal to 0. Now the price at the moment wouldn't cost anything because we don't actually have any prices at the moment. So it might make sense to actually add in some prices. So let's make another double called eco price, and we'll call that £1.30. And then we'll do another one at premium price, or pre-price, at £2.40. That's our two price scales. Now we define a way of selecting those two, because we've got two prices, assumedly by meter, and we've got our overall price as well. But we need to find a way of making sure that we can select either of them. So what we can do is we can look at our radio buttons. Now, at the moment, they're called radio button 1 and radio button 2. For simplicity, I'm going to stick with those for now. And what we're going to do is we're going to go if radio button 1 dot checked we will make it so that we're going to be using the EcoTurf price, and if radio button 2 dot checked, we'll do this one. Now, for now, we've got our total price here, our price, but we probably want another price here, which is called our turf price. The reason we're using that is we can then set a difference between what the actual price of something is e.g. the eco price and pre-price, and the price that we're actually going to charge the customer. Many ways we can change this selection, but for now we'll keep it nice and simple. We're going to go down here, we're going to type turf price equals eco price if our first one is checked, and otherwise turf price equals pre-price. And there we go. So turf price will always be equal to one of these two, because the radio button should always be checked. If one is not checked, again we can validate against that, but for now let's not worry too much about that. Let's just check if it works. We could also change a number of different values. We could put our prices in here and assign it to type price or anything else, but to keep it simple for now, Rabbit our program has the prices already desired, and we can assign it to turf price. So once we've got here our total area, we can now do price equals total area times turf price. And what this will do is when we change this here from total area to 25, we'll turn it here to be price instead. Now what will happen is we'll output the price for laying a person's turf, when we set out the message box. Now we know that one of them is 130 and one of them is £2.40. So we're going to go back to our design and run it. Now let's keep it simple. Let's go 1 times 10, so that's going to be 10. And we're going to choose the premium turf. And there we go, 24. Now if we were to close this down and make our length 100, 240. It's as simple as that. Okay, so got the eco price and the approved price. And price equals total area times turf price, and then we finally output the string result of price. As you can see, when we run the program, we're making it 50 meter width garden by a 150 width garden. Give it premium turf, and the price is 18,000. Bit expensive, but large garden. Okay, so we know we can now select options. But it may also be the case that you may want to check something. Perhaps you want to put down weed killer. So we could put in a weed killer option. So let's go into there and type in double weed killer. Let's say that costs 0.50p for everybody who wants to use weed killer. So what we can do is we add something called a checkbox, and we can just drop that in there and drop it in below there, and we can just scroll down until we see the text which is there, and we can call it weed killer. Now we'll leave it as checkbox 1 for now because we don't have any other checkboxes, and it will be simpler with the radio buttons to make sure we know what the difference is. We can type in if checkbox 1 dot checked. It's a true or false statement, don't forget, same as radio buttons. We can do another different part to it. Now we can now decide how we want to do it. We know the weed killer costs 50p. So we could do a forward and back. We could do a boolean check if we wanted to, or anything else, but it might be easier just to put it into part of our code. So let's copy this out of here, and we will do an extra calculation. So we'll go width and length times give equals total area, and we will do an if statement here. So if checkbox 1 is checked, we will do this, so total area or price equals total area times turf price we're also going to do plus the weed killer. So we called it, yeah, we called it weed killer. So we'll put this in brackets here, and we know that it's price per meter. So what this will do is the price will be calculated by taking the total area and timesing it by the result of turf price plus weed killer. Now turf price we know is £2.40 per metre, weed killer is 0.50 per weed killer. So we know that if we combine those two we get the price of premium turf with weed killer, which is £2.90. So we do that here to make our £2.90, and we combine them together and then times it by the total area with price. We can also do a price times turf price and price times weed killer against total area. That's an extra line of code. To keep it optimized, we're going to do turf price plus weed killer times total area equals price. Now, if we did this, it would still go wrong. So we're going to make it another statement called an else statement. This goes at the end of our if statement, and it clearly allows us here to do something else if that statement's not true. So if our checkbox is not checked, we'll just get a total price times turf price. If our checkbox is checked, the price equals total area times turf price plus weed killer. And then if we run it again, we can then click start. And we're going to go, let's say 25 times 10 meters with premium turf with weed killer. Gives us 725. Take a weed killer off, ship it cheaper. That's £600. So we know it's a little bit cheaper that way. Now, one of the things that is probably quite annoying is you're seeing quite often that we're just getting a simple output, 300. It's not very helpful, is it? So what we can do is we can make it an actual price. Might be a little bit cheeky. We can go in here and we can go string end price, and we can equal that as being the, where is it? It's the pound one, so it'll be this one, pound sign, plus convert dot toString price. And then what we can do is end that off. And we can get rid of this bit because it's now a string, and we can just say end price. And then what will happen is when we run this program again, we should get the pound sign in front of our price. Let's put some numbers in there. And there we go. We've now got a pound sign in front of our price to make it a little bit more believable, really. We know it's an actual price. We can end anything, so we could put in the total, for instance, and that gives us our total price. We could also separately calculate certain things. So if we wanted to say itemize part of our bill, we might say what's the weed killer price. We can easily go weed price or weed killer price equals pound sign there plus convert dot toString where is it gone? Right at the bottom as usual, and we can go total area times turf price. And there you go. And what that will do is that will allow us to times together our weed killer price independently and give us price for the weed killer and then price for the turf plus the weed killer. Of course, we have to actually output it as well, though. That's as easy as going weed killer price plus little space. In this case, we've got a /n plus weed killer price, and that should work. Of course, you'll have to make sure that this is one that's checked to make sure you're using weed killer first. And there we go, weed killer and total. Of course, I got that wrong and put turf price in there. Should actually be weed killer price. And realistically, this bit here should only ever happen when checkbox 1 is checked. But you should be able to work that one out by using another if statement. So I won't show you that one. There we go. Our weed killer price is 150, and normal price is 870. Now, as you've seen before, if I change that to turf, we'd see the turf percentage as well. That can let you build an itemized build, so each section of it can be outputted separately. And if we wrap this in an if statement and make multiple versions of it, we can output each itemized build we want to output depending on what we've included in our product. Now, so far we've got a calculator that takes the width and the length and gives us a premium turf or an eco turf and a weed killer. And it gives us a somewhat itemized build, assuming we've got a weed killer included. I'm not going to build the next part of that, I'll let you guys do that. But is there anything else that we can put on here? Well, there's literally hundreds of things we could put on here, depending on what you want to do. You could put in a combo box, for instance, other buttons, other checkboxes. It's really up to you what you think you need to put in to make your system work. What you could always do, for instance, is if you wanted to put a combo box in, you put in a combo box there. And let's find the stuff inside of it. There we go, that's the items one. So you're looking for something called items, and what we can do here is add different items to it. So we could go for eco turf, and do another space, and put in pre-turf. Yeah, okay. We'll call it combo box 1 for now. So if we run it, you can see we can get eco turf or pre-turf. Now if we wanted to control this, we could change things a little bit here. We can access this by going combo box 1 dot selected item or selected index. In this case we're going to use selected item because we want the text value. If you want the index value, it'd be the 0, 1, 2, 3 depending on which number of item you're going for. In this case I just want the selected item. Now, I'm going to assign that to a string of item selected. We have to convert this into a string. It's not stored as a string, it's stored as an object value. And there you go. And what we can do if you want to, now be aware /m allows you to push things into a new line inside a message box. That's how you can build that itemization point of things. And we can check in item selected, and then boom, if we run this, we have another way of selecting our turf. Now, be aware this combo box at the moment is not set up in this code to make a choice between two things. That's currently these two radio buttons. However, if you modify this code and modify your if statements, you'll be able to change it from being a radio button to a combo box if you prefer that. It'd be a case of picking out the selected index or selected item and then comparing that to your variables instead. So for instance, you've got an if box, if index is 0 or is index equals eco turf, then the price is this, and the same thing with the next one. You keep going on for that. So it's exactly the same procedure as doing this here, but you'll be doing it from the index or the selected item inside the combo box. So a different way of doing the same thing. For now, I'm just going to show you how it works by accessing the element inside of it. So we click the calculate button. It's going to crash, didn't put anything in at that time. This is what happens when you don't put anything in your boxes. So make sure something always goes in your boxes. We've not got any validation yet. Let's go 50, 1, 2, 3, premium turf, weed killer, and go eco turf and calculate. As you can see, it says at the bottom eco turf. If I change that here, it becomes pre-turf. Now if you pick an index, which is the number format, or pick the text, you can still compare it in your if statement by going if this index equals to pre-turf or is equals to eco-turf, normally in the quotation brackets. You do the exact same thing as you've done up here, just using a combo box rather than buttons. So what we've now got is a fully functional calculator that can take in values, adjust them, and get the output. Now the important thing from this is you want to put in some validation. So part of that we're checking if this is this, try that, and that's simply using a try statement. I'm not going to cover that today. I'm going to let you guys figure out how to use try statements, but a little hint is you wrap them around things you think might break. So for instance, you think someone might put something wrong in here and you think it might cause this to crash, you put it inside a try statement and say, whoops, you made a mistake, try it again. And that's how your try statements work. We're going to do that probably later on though. For now, you should be able to make your own garden calculator that allows you to get a total price using either a combo box or radio buttons. I hope that's helped you a little bit. Any questions, just give me a shout and I'll hopefully address them. And you should be fully able to now build up a very simple program that gets a bill for a bit of gardening and several different options. So, hope that helps. Have fun making your calculators.